The arrival of Christianity in Africa marks a pivotal chapter in the continent's history, blending ancient spiritual traditions with a transformative faith. From its early adoption in 4th century Ethiopia's Aksumite kingdom to the 19th century missionary waves amid European colonialism, Christianity reshaped societies across sub-Saharan landscapes. Pioneers like Syrian monks, Portuguese explorers, and Protestant societies such as the CMS challenged vibrant indigenous religions, animist beliefs, ancestor veneration, and deity worship through evangelism, education, and social reforms. This documentary uncovers clashes, syncretism, and resilience, revealing how the faith dismantled harmful rituals while eroding cultural identities, birthing hybrid African Christianities that endure today. Chapter 1: The Pre-Christian Religious Landscape in Africa. Africa's traditional religions formed a diverse mosaic, deeply intertwined with the continent's ethnic, environmental, and social fabrics. From the animist beliefs of the San people in southern Africa, who revered spirits in rocks and animals, to the ancestor veneration among the Zulu, these faiths emphasized harmony with nature, communal rituals, and moral codes enforced by elders and diviners. In West Africa, Yoruba and Akan traditions featured complex pantheons of deities, orishas or abusum, governing aspects of life, with divination systems like Ifa guiding decisions. East African groups, such as the Maasai, integrated sky gods and cattle rituals into pastoral life, while Central African Pygmy societies focused on forest spirits. North Africa, influenced by ancient Egyptian polytheism, transitioned to Berber and Coptic traditions before Islam's rise. These religions were holistic, lacking rigid dogma but rich in oral law, festivals, and rites of passage that reinforced identity and social order. Practices like polygamy, initiation scars, and sacrificial offerings were seen as essential for prosperity and ancestral continuity, setting the stage for profound disruptions upon Christianity's arrival. Chapter 2: Early Encounters with Christianity, 1st to 15th centuries. Christianity first took root in North Africa during the Roman Empire's era, with figures like Tertullian and Augustine shaping early theology in Carthage and Alexandria by the 3rd to 5th centuries. Ethiopia's Aksumite kingdom adopted Christianity in the 4th century under King Ezana, influenced by Syrian missionaries, making it one of the world's oldest Christian states. Here, traditional beliefs in a creator god, Mahrem, blended with the new faith, preserving GZ liturgy. In Nubia, modern Sudan, Christian kingdoms flourished from the 6th century, incorporating Coptic rites alongside local animism. However, these early footholds were isolated. Sub-Saharan Africa saw sporadic contacts via Arab traders and Portuguese explorers from the 15th century. In the Kingdom of Congo, Central Africa, Portuguese missionaries in 1491 introduced Catholicism, but elites adopted it pragmatically for alliances, much like Benin's superficial embrace. Traditional religions remained dominant, with Christianity often syncretized, Kongo kings baptized while continuing ancestor cults, resulting in minimal initial disruption to indigenous practices. Chapter 3: The Colonial Era and Missionary Expansion, 16th to 19th centuries. The 19th century scramble for Africa amplified Christianity's spread, as European powers like Britain, France, and Portugal aligned missions with colonialism. Protestant societies, e.g., London Missionary Society in South Africa, 1799, and Catholics, e.g., French Spiritans in West Africa, established stations, targeting coastal trade hubs before penetrating interiors. In South Africa, Dutch Reformed missionaries converted Xhosa and Zulu groups, denouncing witchcraft and polygamy as satanic. The 1807 abolition of the British slave trade, echoed across Europe, funneled freed slaves, e.g., Sierra Leone's Creole, back as evangelists, mirroring West African patterns but extending to East Africa via Zanzibar. Explorers like David Livingstone in Central Africa promoted the Bible and the plough, linking faith with anti-slavery and commerce. This era saw traditional religions labeled pagan, leading to the suppression of rituals. For instance, in Ghana, Basel missionaries banned Akan festivals, viewing them as idolatrous, which eroded communal bonds and sparked early resistance. Chapter 4: Cultural Confrontation and Syncretism. Missionaries demanded total renunciation of traditional practices, framing them as demonic, which ignited widespread conflict. In East Africa, Church Missionary Society, CMS, agents in Uganda condemned Buganda's spirit mediums, Jaja, leading to executions under Kabaka Mwanga in 1886. West African missions targeted Yoruba Orisha worship, equating it with devilry, while in the Congo Free State, Belgian Catholics destroyed fetishes during Leopold II's brutal regime. Yet, syncretism emerged as a survival strategy. Congolese Catholics incorporated Nkisi spirit figures into saint veneration, and Ethiopian Orthodox Christians retained pre-Christian feasts like Timkat, blending them with Epiphany. Some missionaries, like French Jesuit Matteo Ricci's indirect model, adapted in Africa, sought bridges, e.g., identifying African high gods, Nyame in Akan, with Yahweh. This selective integration preserved elements like herbal healing in church contexts but often diluted traditional authority, as converts navigated dual identities, fostering hybrid expressions like South Africa's Zionist churches. Chapter 5. The role of education and social transformation. Education became Christianity's spearhead, reshaping African societies by privileging Western literacy over oral traditions. Missionary schools, such as Lovedale in South Africa, 1841, or Fora Bay College in Sierra Leone, 1827, taught Bible-based curricula, producing elites like Jomo Kenyatta who later led independence movements. In Kenya, CMS Kikuyu schools banned clitoridectomy, sparking the 1929 female circumcision crisis and fracturing communities. Translations of the Bible into over 500 African languages, e.g., Zulu by John Colenso, embedded Christian narratives, marginalizing indigenous law. Socially, Christianity upended hierarchies. It promoted monogamy, challenging polygynous systems in 70% of sub-Saharan societies, and elevated women in some contexts, e.g., Methodist women's guilds in Nigeria, while reinforcing patriarchal norms elsewhere. Art and music transformed, traditional masks repurposed for church dramas, and hymns fused with African rhythms, as in South African gospel. However, this civilizing mission often created class divides, with educated Christians viewing traditionalists as inferior, accelerating cultural erosion. Chapter 6. Resistance and Persecution. Traditional religions mounted fierce resistance, viewing Christianity as a colonial import eroding sovereignty. In Zimbabwe, Ndebele spirit mediums led the 1896 to 1897 Chimurenga uprising against British missionaries who seized land for churches. South Africa's Xhosa cattle-killing prophecy, 1856 to 1857, inspired by a girl's vision, was partly a backlash against missionary encroachments, resulting in famine and 40,000 deaths. Persecution cut both ways. Converts faced ostracism, as in Tanzania's Chaga Hills where families disowned churchgoers, or violence like the 1960s witch hunts in Malawi targeting Christian backsliders. Diviners and priests, stripped of roles by mission hospitals and schools, organized secret societies to preserve rites. Passive resistance included nominal conversions, attending Mass while sacrificing to ancestors at night, frustrating missionaries like Scottish Presbyterians in Malawi, who demanded complete conversion. These clashes highlighted Christianity's role in power dynamics, often aligning with colonial forces to suppress indigenous spirituality. Chapter 7. The Rise of Independent Churches and Pentecostalism. The 20th century birthed African independent churches, AICs, reclaiming agency from Western missions. Pioneered by figures like Isaiah Shem's Nazareth Baptist Church in South Africa, 1910, AICs integrated healing, prophecy, and polygamy, attracting millions disillusioned by rigid denominationalism. In West Africa, Gerrick Sokari Derrick's African Church, 1901, split from Anglicanism over cultural insensitivity. Pentecostalism exploded post-1960s, with movements like the Zion Christian Church in southern Africa emphasizing miracles that echoed traditional spirit possession, drawing from Azua Street influences via American missionaries. By the 1980s, prosperity gospel variants in Nigeria and Kenya framed poverty as demonic, further demonizing ancestral curses. These movements marginalized pure traditionalism by offering Africanized Christianity, yet preserved elements like trance states. Non-denominational groups, akin to Scripture Union, evangelized youth, solidifying Christianity's dominance. Today, over 60% of sub-Saharan Africans identify as Christian, per Pew Research. Chapter 8: Long-term impacts and an evolving landscape. Christianity's legacy in Africa is a double-edged sword. It dismantled harmful practices like ritual killing in parts of Sierra Leone and widow cleansing in Kenya, fostering human rights advancements, but at the cost of cultural homogenization. Traditional religions, once central, survive in syncretic forms, e.g., 40% of Ghanaians blend Akan rites with church attendance or as heritage tourism in Ethiopia's rock-hewn churches. Socially, it birthed new identities, empowering women through education but fueling conflicts like Rwanda's 1994 genocide, where church complicity exacerbated ethnic divides. Artistically, African Christian music, e.g., Congolese soukous hymns, and literature, Chinua Achebe's critiques, reflect hybrid vigor. Yet, an identity crisis persists, with decolonization movements like Ubuntu theology seeking reconciliation. In a globalized Africa, Pentecostalism's growth, projected 800 million adherents by 2050, continues eroding traditionalism, but revivals of Vodun in Benin signal resilience, pointing to an ongoing dialogue between faiths. Conclusion: the arrival of Christianity in Africa fundamentally transformed the continent's spiritual, cultural, and social fabric, profoundly impacting traditional religions. While some practices, such as ritual killings, were eradicated, often with positive social outcomes, the widespread demonization of indigenous beliefs led to cultural erosion and identity crises. Traditional religions, once central to African life, were marginalized, surviving in syncretic forms or as private practices, with only pockets of resilience, like Vodun in Benin. Missionary efforts, through education, Bible translations, and social reforms, dismantled sacred sites and rituals but also empowered new elites and fostered human rights advancements. The rise of African independent churches and Pentecostalism created a uniquely African Christianity, blending traditional elements like healing with Christian doctrine, yet further sidelined pure traditionalism. Today, with over 60% of Sub-Saharan Africans identifying as Christian, the continent's religious landscape reflects a complex interplay of adaptation, resistance, and hybridity, where traditional religions persist in dialogue with a dominant Christian identity, shaped by ongoing decolonization and cultural revival efforts.